The wind was sharp on the alien moon, carrying dust and the strange scent of purple moss that grew between the jagged rocks. Jack, a human from Earth, adjusted the scanner on his wrist and looked around. His mission was simple: gather weather, data, check the soil, and return to base before nightfall. He was alone. His team was resting at the main camp half a mile away. Jack liked the silence. The alien sky was always changing colors, and he liked watching it. He took a deep breath and leaned down to collect a sample near the edge of the trees. Suddenly, he heard a strange sound. A soft cry, then a whisper broken by fear. "Please, help." Jack turned quickly. From behind a large rock, a small figure stepped out. She was a young alien girl, barely reaching his chest. Her skin was pale blue and her eyes were big, glowing softly in the dim light. She wore a torn wrap and had dirt on her face. Her voice shook. "My mother. She's sick. Shaking. Please come." Jack froze for a moment. His first thought was to call his team, but the communication signal blinked red. No connection. He looked at the girl. She wasn't holding any weapon. Her hands were shaking. Her face was full of fear. "Where is she?" Jack asked calmly. The girl pointed toward the forest. "She's in a cave and she can't move." Jack hesitated. He had training, but not in alien medicine. Still, he couldn't leave her alone. He picked up his gear and followed her. The path was rocky, with twisted roots and glowing plants that bent toward them as they passed. After 10 minutes of walking, they reached a narrow cave entrance. Inside, it was cold and dark. The girl ran ahead, calling softly in her language. Jack followed, switching on a small light. He saw her. A tall alien woman lay on the ground, wrapped in a thin cloth. Her skin was darker than her daughter's, but she looked weak. Her body was shaking. Her breathing was slow and rough. Her eyes opened for a second, then closed again. "She hasn't eaten. She's cold. She's dying," the girl said in a quiet voice. "Please help her. You're human. You have things." Jack knelt beside the woman. Her pulse was weak. He didn't know alien biology, but he knew what cold and starvation looked like. She needed warmth, fast. He opened his pack and took out a thermal blanket. He wrapped it around her gently. Then he handed a ration bar to the girl. "Break this into small pieces and feed her slowly," he said. The girl nodded and did as told. Jack pulled out a small heater and placed it near the woman's legs. The warmth started to fill the cave. "What's your name?" Jack asked. "Lyra," the girl replied. "I'm Jack." "Why are you helping us?" Lyra whispered. "Others ran when they saw us." Jack looked at her. "Because no one deserves to die like this." She looked down, blinking quickly. Jack could see her eyes were wet. Jack gave the woman some sips of water. Her body was still shaking, but less than before. The warmth was helping. Still, this was only the start. She needed better care, food, and medicine. Jack looked at his wrist screen again. Still no signal. He turned to Lyra. "Is there a shelter nearby? A place where others live?" She shook her head. "No one is left. We hid when our ship crashed. The others are gone. Just me and Mother now." Jack's mind raced. He couldn't carry the mother all the way back alone. But he could wait until morning and hope the signal returned. Or maybe they had to move. "I'll stay tonight," Jack said. "We'll make a plan tomorrow." Lyra looked relieved. "Thank you, Jack." As night fell, Jack kept the heater running. He shared more food and water with Lyra. He gave her an extra blanket and helped her lie next to her mother. Then he sat near the cave wall, watching the entrance, ready with his small shock tool in case anything came. He looked at the stars above. This wasn't part of the mission. But in that quiet moment, he didn't care. He wasn't just a scientist anymore. He was their only hope. The cave was quiet except for the soft breathing of Lyra and her mother. Jack stayed awake, sitting near the entrance with his back against the cold wall. His eyes stayed open, alert. Outside, the wind made the trees sway and hum in the dark. Every hour, Jack checked on the woman. She was still weak, but her body had stopped shaking so much. The warmth from the blanket and heater was helping. Her breathing was slower, more even now. Lyra stayed curled up beside her, holding her hand, whispering, softly in her native tongue. Jack looked at the signal device on his wrist again. Still no connection to his team. The storm from earlier must have knocked out local relays. He sighed quietly. At sunrise, light entered the cave and touched the rocks with a soft orange glow. Jack stood up, stretched his tired legs, and quietly stepped outside. The air was cold, but clear. He climbed a nearby hill, hoping to get a signal from higher ground. Still nothing. He walked back to the cave and found Lyra sitting up, feeding her mother small sips of water. She woke for a moment. Lyra said softly, "She knows you helped." Jack knelt beside the woman and gave her a small nod. Her eyes fluttered open just enough to look at him. Then she closed them again. "She needs more help than I can give here," Jack said. Lyra looked scared. "Can we move her?" "I'll try to carry her," Jack said. "But first we need to know where to go." Lyra stood and walked to the cave entrance. "There's a crash site not far. We lived there before the patrols came." "What's there?" Jack asked. "Medicine, tools, maybe shelter?" Jack nodded. That was their best chance. They made a plan. Lyra would help guide the way. Jack used a few sticks and rope from his gear to build a simple sled. He placed the woman gently on it, wrapping her tightly in the thermal blanket. By mid-morning, they started the journey. The path was rough and full of fallen trees. Jack pulled the sled slowly, careful not to shake her too much. Lyra walked ahead, watching the forest for danger. She told Jack about strange creatures that sometimes followed travelers. They moved in shadows and didn't like fire. "We'll stay close together," Jack said. Hours passed. The forest grew thicker. Once they stopped near a small stream. Jack let Lyra drink and rest while he checked the sled. The woman was still breathing, her face calmer than before. "Why were the patrols chasing you?" Jack asked while they sat near the water. Lyra looked down. "They think we're not allowed here. Our ship crashed. We had no choice. They don't listen. They just hunt." Jack clenched his jaw. He didn't like that. No one should be hunted while trying to survive. They moved again after the break, pushing deeper into the woods. By late afternoon, Lyra pointed to a sharp hill ahead. "Behind that hill," she said, "is the place." Jack looked at the sky. It would be dark in 2 hours. They needed to reach it before night. Climbing the hill was slow. Jack used all his strength to pull the sled up the slope, step by step. His back hurt and sweat rolled down his face. Lyra pushed from behind. At the top, they paused to catch their breath. Then Jack saw it. Pieces of metal, bent and blackened, lay in a small clearing. Parts of a ship, old, broken, but not forgotten. Lyra let him down quickly, pointing to a half-covered section of the wreck. "In there," she said. "We used to sleep there." Jack helped her clear the entrance. Inside, it was dusty but strong. The walls held up. A few old supplies lay on the floor. Lyra ran to a small box and opened it. Inside were strange alien tools, bottles with soft lights inside, and rolls of bandages. "This is medicine," she said. "I don't know how it works, but I remember it helped her before." Jack picked up a bottle and turned it in his hands. The writing made no sense to him. He didn't want to use anything wrong. But one device looked like a scanner. He turned it on. It hummed to life, then showed a small screen. It scanned the woman and flashed green. Jack pressed a button. A soft beam of light touched her chest. The woman breathed deeper. Her face relaxed. "It's working," Lyra said with hope in her voice. Jack smiled. "Let's keep her warm and let the medicine do its job." He set up the heater again and sealed the entrance with a metal panel to keep out the cold. Then he lit a small campfire inside the wreck, careful to control the smoke. That night, the three of them stayed inside the old ship. The woman was still weak but stable. Lyra smiled for the first time since they met. You didn't have to help us, she said. Jack looked at her and replied, yes, I did. The night passed slowly, but inside the broken ship there was peace. The warmth of the fire kept the cold away, and the walls gave shelter. Jack slept in short moments, always waking to check on the mother. Lyra stayed beside her, gently wiping her face with a soft cloth and whispering kind words in her language. By morning, the woman's color had improved. She opened her eyes and looked at Jack with more strength. Though she was still weak, her breathing was deeper, her hands no longer shaking. You saved us, she whispered, her voice dry and quiet. Jack knelt beside her. I just helped. Your daughter is the real hero. The woman turned her eyes to Lyra, who smiled and held her mother's hand. Jack knew the recovery had only begun. They were not safe yet. The medicine helped, but they still had no connection to the research team, and the patrols Lyra mentioned could return at any time. He stepped outside the shelter, checking the forest. It was calm. The light wind blew through the tall trees, making them rustle gently. Jack climbed the same hill again, holding his communicator up toward the sky. Still no signal. Back at the ship, Lyra showed Jack more of the supplies hidden inside. Some food was still good, strange blue fruit sealed in tight containers. There were also energy cells, a few lights, and a toolkit. We can stay here for now, Jack said, but we need to watch for trouble. Lyra nodded. I saw one of their flyers 2 days before I met you. It was looking for survivors. Jack understood. The patrols weren't just passing by, they were hunting. He needed to prepare. That afternoon, he walked through the woods nearby and looked for materials. He gathered sticks, flat stones, and vines to build traps. He had no weapons strong enough to fight, but he could protect the area in other ways. He set up simple alarms, strings tied to cans that would make noise if anyone stepped on them. He placed sharp sticks under leaves around the paths leading to the ship. Then he returned and explained everything to Lyra. If we hear anything, he said, we stay quiet. Don't run unless I say. She agreed and repeated the plan back to him. Her mother was sleeping again, her chest moving gently. The medicine had brought real change. But now they had a new worry. Time. Jack looked at the fuel cell in his heater. It was nearly empty. The food would last maybe 2 more days. If the communicator didn't reconnect soon, they'd be out of options. That night, they all stayed quiet. The fire burned low to avoid drawing attention. Lyra sat beside Jack, looking at the stars through a hole in the roof. Do you miss your home? She asked. Jack nodded. I do. But sometimes you find something important far from home. She tilted her head. Like us? Jack smiled. Yes, like you. The wind changed suddenly. Jack stood up, sensing something. He moved to the hill again and looked across the dark forest. A red light blinked through the trees, moving slowly, too smooth to be an animal. A patrol flyer. Jack hurried back. We have to hide, now. He helped Lyra and her mother move to a back corner of the ship. He covered the fire and wrapped them in dark cloths. Then he took a stick and some loose dirt, brushing away their tracks. The red light passed by the edge of the clearing. It hovered for a moment, scanning. Jack held his breath. Then it moved on. They waited in silence until the light disappeared. Jack finally relaxed. They're still looking, he whispered. We need to find a way to leave soon. The next morning, Jack decided to try one more thing. He took the toolkit and opened the drone from the crash site. It was old, but he thought he could fix it. If he could repair the signal, maybe it could fly high enough to reach his base. Lyra helped him sort parts. Her hands were careful and quick. Together, they cleaned the circuits and replaced the broken parts with spares from the ship. By evening, the drone was ready. Jack carried it outside and placed it on a flat stone. He typed a short message. Emergency. Human survivor with 2 aliens in need of medical rescue. Coordinates attached. He hit send. The drone blinked, beeped, and flew up into the sky. Lyra held her breath as it disappeared into the clouds. Dua. You think they'll come? She asked. Jack looked at her with hope in his eyes. If the drone reaches them, they will. They waited, watching the sky. For now, they had done everything they could. The rest was in the hands of the stars. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky in soft orange and pink. Jack sat near the old ship's doorway, his eyes fixed on the sky. The drone had disappeared hours ago. He didn't know if it had reached the base or failed mid-flight. The waiting was the hardest part. Inside the shelter, Lyra sat beside her mother, holding her hand. The woman was still weak, but stronger than before. She opened her eyes now and then, whispering a few words and giving a faint smile when Jack passed by. She's better today, Lyra said softly. Jack nodded. That's good. She's fighting. They shared some fruit from the old supplies. Jack kept some for the next day. The heater's energy cell was low, only a few hours left. He used it in short bursts to warm the air, then shut it off. Suddenly, the forest grew quiet. Too quiet. Jack stood and moved outside. The wind had stopped. Even the trees seemed still. A strange silence wrapped the area like a heavy blanket. Then he saw it. A small drone-like eye hovered just above the trees. Not the same model as theirs. It was dark gray and silent, an alien patrol scout. Jack ducked back inside. Hide, he whispered. He helped Lyra move her mother into the far corner again and covered them with the thick fabric. He made sure there was no fire, no sound. Then he crouched near the entrance, ready to protect them. Minutes later, the scout passed right above the wreckage. A red light scanned the ground. Jack stayed still, barely breathing. Then came footsteps, heavy ones. Not machines. Soldiers. Jack's heart pounded. He reached for a broken metal rod, the only thing he could use as a weapon. He listened closely. There were two of them. They stopped near the entrance. One of them spoke in a strange, alien language. Jack didn't understand the words, but the tone was clear. They were searching. The footsteps circled the wreckage. One of them kicked a metal piece on the ground. Jack tightened his grip on the rod. Just then, a loud sound echoed through the, forest. A sharp whine followed by a burst of light from the sky. The soldiers stopped. One shouted. Then both of them ran off toward the trees. Jack peeked through a crack. A small flare burned in the distance. A signal flare. Someone was close. Someone human. They're coming, Jack whispered. The drone worked. Lyra sat up, her eyes wide with hope. They found us? I think so, Jack said. But we still need to be careful. An hour later, they heard a voice through the forest. Jack, do you copy? Respond if you hear me. It was familiar. A voice from his team. Jack ran out and waved his arms. Here, I'm here. Through the trees, a small team in human suits rushed toward him. One of them, a medic, moved ahead and knelt beside Jack. Are you okay? She asked. I'm fine, he said. But there's a mother and daughter in the wreck. The mother's very weak. They're not human, but they need help. The medic didn't hesitate. Take us to them. Inside, Lyra stared at the newcomers with wide eyes, holding her mother protectively. Jack stepped in first and spoke softly. They're friends. They're here to help. The medic moved carefully, scanning the woman and giving her clean water and warmth. Two others set up a signal beacon to call the transport ship. She's stable for now, the medic said. You did good, Jack. She did most of it, Jack replied, pointing to Lyra. She didn't give up. Later that night, the rescue transport arrived. Lights from the ship filled the clearing as the wind from the landing blew dust in every direction. Soldiers kept watch as the medic team helped carry the alien woman onto a stretcher. Lyra stayed close, never letting go of her mother's hand. Jack climbed in beside them. You're coming with us, he said. But where? Lyra asked, unsure. To safety. To a place where no one will hurt you, he said. The door closed, and the ship rose into the sky, carrying them away from danger. The rescue ship moved quickly through the stars. Inside, the atmosphere was calm but full of quiet hope. Jack sat beside Lyra and her mother, who was resting on a soft bed made by the medics. The woman's breathing was steady now, and her color had returned to a healthy shade. Lyra held her mother's hand tightly. She looked at Jack with gratitude and something else. Respect. Jack smiled back, feeling the weight of what had happened. After a long flight, the ship arrived at a large station orbiting a safe planet. The station was bright and full of activity. Humans and aliens worked side by side, helping those who had suffered in battles or accidents. Jack stood with Lyra and her mother as the medics took the woman away for further care. A kind-looking alien doctor nodded at Jack. "She will recover," the doctor said. "Your actions saved her life." Jack nodded quietly. Lyra looked around, amazed. "Is this a place for people like us?" "Yes," Jack said. "A place where no one will chase you. You can be safe here." Days passed and Lyra's mother grew stronger. She told Jack about their people, their home in the stars, the crash that destroyed their ship, and the patrols that hunted them. She spoke with hope for the first time, saying she wanted to rebuild their lives. Jack listened and promised to help. The people on the station welcomed Lyra and her mother. They gave them food, clothes, and a warm place to stay. Lyra learned the language and made new friends. One day, Lyra took Jack to a garden on the station. The plants reminded her of the purple moss from her home planet. "Thank you for saving us," she said softly. "Without you, we would have died, alone." Jack smiled. "You were brave too. You never gave up." Lyra looked at him with shining eyes. "You are more than a human to us. You are a hero." Jack felt proud, but humble. He had only done what anyone should do, to help those in need. As months passed, the story of Jack's bravery spread across the station and back to Earth. People talked about the human who saved 2 aliens against all odds. He became a symbol of hope and kindness. The mother and daughter started a new life. They taught others about their culture and shared stories from their lost home. Jack stayed close, helping whenever he could. One evening, Jack stood beside Lyra and her mother, watching the stars from the station's balcony. "Your home is safe now," he said. Lyra smiled. "And you are part of it." Jack looked up at the sky, thinking about Earth, the alien moon, and the journey they had taken together. In a universe full of dangers and unknowns, one thing was clear: hope and kindness could cross any star.